Right, joining me now to run through all of the top stories today is commentator Sam Armstrong. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, normally you and I witter on for ages, much to the joy of the nation. But we're going to be cut short a little bit today because we've got the Prime Minister giving an impromptu press conference, impromptu, probably long-planned press conference, at about 10:30. We'll go to that live, certainly take what he has to say. He usually talks in quite brief terms, doesn't he? We don't know what it's about, but it's obviously trying to set the agenda when the agenda, as always, has been ripped out from under the Prime Minister pretty much every single week. Whenever they try to set the agenda, you just know it's going to be another bad week. Of course, we've got local elections coming up on May the 2nd. We're just, I think, 10 days out from those. So, I mean, who knows what that's going to be about. Also, we are going to be talking to the man at the centre of one of the biggest political storms going on, and that is a man called Gideon Falter. He's a prominent anti-Semitism campaigner and apparently openly Jewish. This was the phrase used by a Metropolitan Police officer at a pro-Palestinian march Saturday a week ago when Gideon Falter, wearing his kippah, his skull cap on his head, and various of his other friends, colleagues, decided they wanted to cross the pro-Palestinian march. Remember, this pro-Palestinian march, that's not a hate march and is in no way a threat to Jewish people, and Jewish people feel absolutely fine and safe in London. But this was the exchange that Gideon Falter had with a senior police officer on the day.
If I could ask you to stay there, please. Thank you very much. I know, I have heard you.
I don't want to stay here, I want to leave.
Well, in that case, sir,
And I'm going that way.
when the crowd is gone, I will happily escort you out.
I'm going to walk now. I don't think that's
No, sir. I don't want anybody antagonising anything. Yeah, and at the moment, sir, you are quite openly Jewish. This is a pro-Palestinian march. I'm not accusing you of anything, but I'm worried about the reaction to your presence.
Extraordinary. You look openly Jewish. Well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if he hadn't had a skull cap on, what would there have been an issue with his nose? I mean, it is the most extraordinary thing for a police officer to have said. Just to say this, Sam Armstrong, there is a 13-minute longer clip of this, which Sky News happened to be filming. They were there at the protest testimony. And there are a lot of people pointing out, look, that this man wasn't there by accident. He was making a point. But big call now is that after a tweet from a very senior assistant commissioner at the Met, which basically justified what this police officer had said, then that was withdrawn and deleted. And an apology from Sir Mark Rowley, the Met chief. There are now still calls for Met chief to go. Suella Braverman, the former Home Secretary, Campaign for Antisemitism, led by Gideon Falter, is calling for him to go. Not getting much support from the Prime Minister. He's meeting with the Home Secretary later today. Sadiq Khan, the London Mayor, has backed him. The question we're asking today is, after calls for the Met chief to be sacked, I want to know, should he or shouldn't he? Tell us why he should. Tell us why you think so. Give us a call on 0344 499 1000. Text on 87222 or get in touch on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs one standard network rate message. Should he go, Sam Armstrong?
Well, I actually think the problem goes probably far, far higher up than Mark Rowley, right? He is there and is imposing the law as he sees it, but as Suella Braverman made clear at the time, if the laws aren't there to stop these protests, they need changing too. And certainly the culture of policing does so. Look, it is not provocative to be Jewish, whether openly or otherwise. That is not a provocation. And if there are people marching through the streets of London each weekend, every Saturday...
Every other Saturday, yeah.
...for whom the mere presence of a Jewish person is so outrageously provocative that they would be drawn to commit acts of physical violence, well, then that is a hate march. They are hate marchers. If not all of them, the overwhelming majority of them. I'm not having this anymore. We're worried about a small minority. No, these are people that are coming week in, week out. Yeah. Shouting racist chants.
And they were doing that. I mean, on the actual longer video, you can hear people shouting scum, shouting Nazis, shouting abuse at Gideon Falter. But the police were threatening to arrest him for trying to walk into the march, rather than even threatening arrest, let alone actually going through with it, for the people who were clearly breaking the law. You can't go around shouting scum at people.
The Metropolitan Police have come to this view that there's nothing they can do about these protests. Yeah. I don't think actually individual officers...
They're scared of them.
Sympathise much. I just think there's nothing they can do. And basically they form the view that, but there is something we can do about people that make our lives in any way more difficult. So pro-Persian, anti-Iranian protesters that hold up signs that saying Hamas is a terrorist group. It's the law, right? That's an
official statement of government policy.
that becomes a crime. They have lost their way completely and utterly. But I don't think it's just the commissioner.
No.
I think it all needs to
He's not
change.
specifically the problem. This is the kind of the guidance they are getting about how to police this. And that, to me, is the big concern. I'm thinking... Doesn't make any difference whether this guy, I think he's damn sight better than Cressida Dick, who was an absolute waste of space, but I don't think it's going to make any difference because at the end of the day, there is just a view that, like, you know what, there's 100,000 people, we can't control them, we think they could turn nasty. Which is quite an insult, by the way, to the peaceful people who are on the march. And I have no doubt at all that the majority of people on that march are actually completely peaceful and are genuinely concerned about children dying in Gaza. We saw a huge number of children, dozens of children killed over the weekend in bomb attacks in the south of Gaza. People should rightfully be concerned about that. But again, there is a hateful element. The organisers of this march, 5 or 6 of them, have close links to Hamas. I mean, that's all you need to know, isn't it? Look, we are going to be talking to Gideon Falter, the man at the centre of that, the openly Jewish man, as apparently he's considered by an officer. We'll be talking to him in just a few moments' time. Just want to get to some other stories, though. The Rwanda bill. It is Groundhog Day. Again, another showdown, more votes. Prem has basically said, I've got to get this bill through. We're going to keep on voting. The Lords need to back down now, don't they? This is the will of the democratically elected Parliament.
Yeah, I suspect the Lords will back down today. If they don't, they're probably only playing into the Prime Minister's hands. Of course, that actually, the passage of the bill poses the Prime Minister as a problem as well as an opportunity, because now we're going to see whether this law that, by the way, lots and lots of Tory rebels says wasn't tough enough, is going to work.
Well, half of them think it's not tough enough and half of them think it's too tough. No one likes the bill. I mean, no one thinks this Rwanda bill is going to work.
And if it doesn't work, there is going to be a reckoning for this Prime Minister. Never forget, he promised no ifs, no buts. We're going to stop the boats, not reduce them, not diminish them, stop the boats.
Good luck with that. Yes, exactly. I genuinely, I live for the day I'm not talking about the Rwanda bill ever again. Let's also talk about Ukraine. Extraordinary vote in the House of Representatives. We actually saw the Republican Majority Leader pushing through this just under $61 million US aid package. I mean, it's not aid, it is military aid, it is hardware, it is lethal aid for the Ukrainians to take on the Russians. There's no doubt at all that we've seen the Russians make advances in the Donbass region and around Crimea as well in recent months because of that aid package being stalled. This is good news, not just for Ukraine. This is good news for Europe and indeed for democracy, isn't it?
Absolutely. Every single one of those bullets sent from the US over to Ukraine is going into somebody that would, if they were let to their own devices, march across Europe pillaging.
Well, I mean, I genuinely feel sorry for Russian conscripts as well. I genuinely do. You know, these people are, being dragged off to fight a war which has got nothing to do with them. This is Putin's mad ego. But nevertheless, it's an existential battle for democracy right now.
And it's our war that Ukraine is fighting.
Yeah.
It's us that Putin is really most angered by. It's us that he would like to undermine, overthrow.
Yeah.
And it's us that he sees as the threat to him. Until that man is gone from office, many, 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 many more people will die.
Indeed. Also, we had the news last night that Mark Menzies, the Tory MP who asked for, was it £5,000, ended up being £6,500 from a senior 78-year-old aide in his constituency to pay off some bad people holding him captive in a flat. Apparently not the last time or the first time this has happened to him. He is to stand down. There won't be a by-election, though. But, I mean, good riddance to this man, surely.
I mean, the most remarkable thing about this story is how unremarkable it is. Tory MPs, what on earth is happening? It doesn't surprise me in the least when I wake up, read a newspaper and see them getting into all manner of bizarre,
like what are they up to today?
Situations. Yeah, indeed.
Are you work with a lot of MPs. Are they any worse than an average person in terms of their weird predilections?
Well, there is one thing about being an MP, which is you get sent away from your family down to London. All of a sudden, as a middle-aged bloke, you're told you're very powerful, you're very attractive and all fantastic.
When you're not.
When you're not, and some of them let it go to their head.
Oh, well, there we are then. That explains it all. Look, I'd love to talk to you for longer. We've got much longer later in the show. Sam Armstrong, thank you very much indeed for joining us.